because the Navigator app is designed to
I
be a
would do
place
this
where
job even
people
if I were not
are
being paid
connecting
for
with each
it.
other
The
and
problem
It's really a passion
people in my
of
family that are
mine.
dealing
So
with
to be able
partnerships
to
and
help
generational
women,
health issues.
especially
share
Sure.
experiences.
Have any
Knowledge.
questions?
Welcome to Healthier Habits, where we dive into health and wellness challenges and connect you with local resources here in Chicago. I'm Cassandra Zumba.
And I am Kwachi. We're your policy, systems, and environmental coordinators with the Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion, a program under the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Healthier Habits podcast. Today's esteemed guest is Israel Muñoz, who is the online community manager at the Community Food Navigator. His work at the Navigator primarily focuses on the intersection between technology and relationship building, emphasizing the ways in which technology can be used to support and strengthen the expansive and diverse community of folks working for food sovereignty in Chicago.
Welcome, Israel. Thank you for being here. I think just to start off the conversation, a question we want to ask is, what's your favorite Chicago summer plan?
Oh, oh man, that's tough.
Mhm.
I was just talking with someone about like what to show off in Chicago when people come to visit. It's not a full summer plan, but I did this with my cousin when he was in town a while ago, and I really liked it. It's nothing special, but it's just like they were new to Chicago. They wanted to see a city, and he was studying architecture, so he like loves the buildings and stuff. So she was like, you wanted to get a good, like a good place to see the skyline, and so it was late at night or like later in the day. So I took them to Bridgeport to get chicken sandwiches from I can't believe Big Boss, which is like my favorite chicken sandwich place in the city. And so we went and got that, and then what we did is we drove to the Adler Planetarium, and we parked by like the drive up to the planetarium, and then we like got out and we sat by those like steps and we like ate there. And that was super nice. It was just like we got to see, it was quiet. We got to see like the skyline. So I don't know. I like that. I feel like if I had people come into the city or honestly, I feel like I want to do that sometimes. Again, like just kind of go and sit over there and eat something.
I think like if you put it under the lens of like showing tourists or somebody new to the city, emphasizing that it's not only the skyscrapers out there is great. Like you mentioned Bridgeport, right?
Yeah.
So our neighborhoods are so rich in culture and they're all very different that it's really going to depend on like what food are you in the mood for or what's your interest. Like you said, architecture, like all of that, it's different. But and it's like this in every city, right? We're not just the one street they represent them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But especially if you have someone who's native to Chicago, going to the little, and I also don't like this term, the hidden gems that you always hear. Those are nice to show tourists that there's more than just a city or what you hear in the news sometimes.
Yeah.
What about you? Yeah, do you have any special places you like to go to in the summer?
So during the summer, that's when the brunch gets out. You know, the weather is nice. You just text a friend like, hey, you're free this Saturday. Let's go out to brunch. I don't really have a specific place for brunch. Like we just pick a day or pick a restaurant and just go. But now I was even just talking to Zeke about it. Like Korean barbecue has been one of my favorite places to visit. So I've been hopping throughout this city to all the great Korean barbecue spots, and I just happened to find one in Chinatown. So that's where I frequent and will continue to frequent in the summer. Yeah. What about you?
I kind of like the sense of the city, like just sitting in front of the lake, especially because it doesn't look like a typical lake. You go out there and it looks like it goes on forever. So just having that tranquil moment of just sitting there is great. But as well as just discovering new different places. So I love coffee and I love coffee shops. In the weekends, if I have no other plans, I just start hopping coffee shops, looking for new ones, having a whole list, trying to check them off. So that's like my favorite like pastime.
You know, they always make fun of our lakefront They're like, how is it a beach on this side and then there's like a pavement on the other side?
Yes, like people sunbathing right on concrete.
I like it though. I sometimes will go to I really like this actually we did this last year. It was really funny. We hadn't gone to like we like to go to by like the lakefront on the north side and like just sit by the on the grass like in parts where it's like kind of like you have the concrete but you have like grass up to the water. So we like to sit and have like a picnic and just like play board games, eat something while we watch the lake. And we were like my partner and I were like we're like we haven't done that this year. We need to go. And we were completely unaware that we were going while the air and water show was happening. So we're like trying to find parking and we just keep driving further and further north. And so we're just like that. And people would come up to us and be like, can you see the air and water show from here? And we're like, no. I mean, like you'll see like the planes like out in the distance.
It's like I hear them.
Yeah,
That's about it.
So Israel, bio is just like a small percentage of what encompasses your work and who you are. So can you introduce yourself and share your background?
Yeah, for sure. So my full name is Israel Muñoz Mireles. I was originally born and raised in Mexico. We came here when I was 15. Yeah, I mean, my work background is just kind of like all over the place. I did a bunch of odd jobs. My most consistent work was as a wedding videographer. But it wasn't even that wasn't like a consistent, like I was also doing some editing on the side. I like was a server for a bit, a bartended for a bit. I was a door-to-door salesman for like a roofing company for a bit. And I also put down pavement on like school parking lots. So I've kind of done a bunch of different things, but I've always had like a desire just to do something that felt like it was good for other people, like I wanted to help people. Always just feels like, I don't know, too paternalistic. Like it's not like I needed help as much as I wanted to give it, but I wanted to find a place where I could be of service to others, right? And so during the pandemic, I got a job at a vaccination station, which was really nice. Just feeling like I was able to finally get out of the house and do something that was good. If you meet my grandmother to this day, you will not, she will not stop talking about how I was an angel because I got her and my aunt their vaccination. I was like, you all were able, I just told you about this. Like, I didn't pull like I wasn't pulling strings.
But it was a scary time, so having a familiar face helps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was nice. And we were like insisting, we're like, you really should come. But yeah, that was like a really good experience. I really loved the people that I worked there. And the organization that I was working with there, so one of them was Esperanza Health Centers. They were the ones like with the building, but I was actually hired by Latinos Progresando, which is a nonprofit on like kind of like Marshall Square, little village. They do immigration legal services. And so after my stint there was done, I kind of like reached out to them and was like, hey, do you have more work? And so they hired me. At that point, I had during the pandemic, I had also helped a friend of mine with like as like personal assistant for his mom, managing businesses, like kind of like the businesses and properties that their father had left behind as he had passed away during the pandemic. And since I was bilingual, I was able to help. And so that kind of like relationship gave me a little bit of experience that I was able to leverage when applying to this other nonprofit. And I was a business, so I got a job as a business coordinator, kind of helping folks in the Marshall Square business district applying to grants and knowing about opportunities they have available. And then I really enjoyed that work for a while. But then when I saw the opportunity for my current role, I was really excited for it. I honestly thought it was like a Hail Mary. I was kind of like, we'll see what works. But I felt very aligned because I think I've always felt very connected to both like, the human aspect of work and also of this work, and also just I've always enjoyed technology. I did some very intermittent like programming classes on my own time, and so I felt like I was in a place where I could bridge both of like the sides of my experience to do the work that I do now. And it's been a great fit. I really love it, and I enjoyed the people that I work with are all incredible people, and it's honestly, I feel very lucky.
I appreciate that you go through your career timeline and showing how it's not just linear to what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about this in a previous episode last season on some of the challenges that one of our guests had to get to where he is. It wasn't always straight to community work or health work or anything like that. There's challenges, there's limitations, there's other obstacles. So showing that just because you're in one spot right now doesn't mean that's where you're going to ultimately end up. Or if it's right now you're at somewhere that you love, maybe something even bigger is coming, you never know. So it's good to show the complexity of a career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I always say I want to be that person that does like so many different things in just one life, because I'm pretty sure there are things you learned in wedding photography that you're probably applying here, and it's just a multifaceted person. I enjoy that. So as an online community manager, I feel like that's a title that I haven't heard it in a while. The online community manager. Like, what is your current role, and then what organization? Can you give a little bit more information on the organization as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll so the online community manager title, I'll just say like it is a small cohort of people that do this kind of work. There's also different ways that this kind of work gets categorized. Larger organizations larger organizations will sometimes have like internal online communities, right? And so they'll have people who like manage that community, sometimes referred to as like knowledge sharing. But yeah, it generally entails like because the Navigator app is designed to be a place where people are connecting with each other in order to bring together partnerships and also to share knowledge. There's kind of work that needs to be done to encourage people to do that, and to let them know that it is safe, and also that it is valuable for them to share what they know. And so I'll get a little bit into like the Navigator. So I also want to kind of just preface that like a lot of people hear about the Navigator and they understand it as kind of like the app, but the app is actually it's one part of the Navigator entity. Is just kind of like the easiest thing for people to grasp, I think. But then, so the Navigator as a whole came as a result of a variety of people in the urban community who kind of recognized, there was also like a study by Shy by Design that influences, but just kind of like a recognition that a lot of folks made, that there was a lot of isolation in the folks doing this work in Chicago, specifically Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. There are a lot of resources that don't go into those communities. And so a lot of the growers and folks fighting for like food justice in those spaces were having to reinvent the wheel. They were having to come up with creative solutions to problems because either resources were missing or just they didn't have the connections that they needed to get that work done. And so the impetus to create the Navigator entity was the idea that there needed to be an entity that could look at all the whole landscape of folks doing this work and help both build partnerships with people that kind of made sense, but also for newer people to be able to more clearly understand the landscape, see what resources are available to them, and also just kind of have an opportunity to share that knowledge, that creativity that the community had to kind of like rely on in order to overcome the challenges and the lack of resources. And so, yeah, it was kind of like I think that's the best way I can put it. But when the Navigator was started, it was started in 2019. And so it was right before the pandemic. And when the pandemic started, that's actually where the pivot towards building an app was made. At least that's my understanding of it. I wasn't around for this, but yeah, so the app was kind of built as a way for folks to be able to communicate with each other online, be able to share resources, kind of like coordinate work. And the work, once like kind of like the pandemic started to taper off, we were able to start again like our in-person events. So a lot of the work that we do that's outside of the app will host events for growers to kind of come together, share resources, connect. One of my favorite events that we've done, we started doing these last year. We call them Digging In, and we did 2 of them last year, which was basically a potluck with chefs who wanted to source local produce for the restaurants and growers that were looking to sell to restaurants. And so, but then also everyone got to kind of like come together and bring, proof of like what they can do. And it was really exciting because there were the folks at Gary Comer Youth Center who have like their farm there. They brought these like tomatoes, and everyone was I was raving about them. They were incredible. And everyone was raving about them. And when I was talking to them, the folks were like, "Oh, we just like picked these this morning, and we just like added olive oil and like a couple other things, and we're like, these are incredible." And it was a great example that could like show to the chefs, but also to everyone there that like how like this like freshly grown produce was like so delicious. Yeah.
A theme that we've been coming across in some of these episodes is that food is the connector, right? So there's a couple of locations that do also like potlucks, just to get the community involved, to have a sense of like, I guess, brothership, sisterhood, just to come together and share ideas. And it's so great and interesting that there's an app for that specific community. Because I feel a lot of like the troubleshooting or a lot of the knowledge comes with experience. And especially if you're starting out very new or you're trying something different, there is someone out there that may have already done that, gone through that, has a connection, can show you the ropes, or even just like fill out a document. Sometimes it's just so daunting, all this paperwork you have to do for a lot of different things, that having someone who has already done it and be like, this is the simplified version of all of this is a great resource to have for individuals.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the app. I don't know, were you there 2019, right? Were you working then? No, not yet. Because I don't know whether you could speak to it, but like I would imagine like when the pandemic, we're all inside, but still people who need access to food, they still exist. So do you have any like or how did Community Food Navigator work in bridging those that were food insecure and with the app? How did that look like in that time during the pandemic?
So, yeah, I'll be frank. For me, I wasn't around for that, and I also don't know that that I've heard much of like the Navigator. It's specifically playing a role in that. I will say that. So the Navigator, a big part of the founders of the Navigator was like Urban Growers Collective, Grow Greater Englewood, and a lot of other organizations that we partner with. And so really those folks were the ones that are doing a lot of, I think the Navigator was still in early stages. And so the app, as it was being developed, so we had about 100, maybe 200, I forget, what we call seed starters, who were like basically folks in the community who were helping develop the app. They were in an early stage of the app. They were like kind of like giving feedback. And so I don't know how much they were using the app for that work, but I would imagine. But these were the folks that were doing the work on the ground, honestly, who deserve really all the credit, who were making sure that like food was getting to the folks that needed it. But yeah.
Yeah. So your organization, Community Food Navigator, what people do they primarily serve?
Yeah. So we kind of serve more of like, so we're kind of more like a back support organization in that regard. So we serve a little bit more of like the folks doing the growing, like so growers, food justice advocates, food educators, really anyone who's kind of like working towards a more what we call more food sovereign, Chicago specifically, like I said, in Black, Brown, Indigenous communities. Those are the kind of like folks that we try to work with. There's a lot of wonderful organizations that serve on the more like on the ground side of things, like for like just community members that are looking for food. And I will also say like, that's not to say that we would ever turn someone away.
Right.
But it is I think the people that will find the most value in the Navigator's work are folks that are at some stage of like wanting to be engaged in food work, whether that is growing their own food at home, growing food at a community, starting a community garden, or getting connected with like mutual aid groups, whatever that might look like. Just just kind of like being more connected to the food justice efforts in their community. Then the Navigator can be a very valuable tool, but just really one of the many tools that are in the many communities that are already doing this work.
So you would primarily work with organizations that are sort of involved in like food ecosystem per se. Can you give the audience a little bit of how an ecosystem or a food ecosystem may look like?
Yeah, for sure. So I think so. I think in Chicago we have an interesting like tidbit of information that I think is like worth considering for people when we talk about like Chicago and really Illinois for like our food ecosystem is that Illinois is an agricultural state. We are like fields upon fields upon fields upon fields, and yet 90% of the food that Illinois eats is imported. Most of what we grow is corn, soy, um, and there's long histories and people who can tell much better accounts of those histories for why this is the case. But I think when we talk about like a healthy food ecosystem, specifically here in Chicago, it's about having more resilience and autonomy and control as far as like the food that is available to people. It's about having, I think like a lot of folks don't realize how accessible it is for them to grow food. Like if you have some space, an organization that I want to shout out because I think this is a valuable one for folks who are not trying to like dive into the deep end of like food justice work. Chicago Grows Food is a wonderful organization. I think you all might be familiar with Elizabeth. Yeah. And they're kind of like my go-to whenever someone's like, I don't know anything and I just want to grow food. I'm like, go talk to Elizabeth. She'll set you up. She'll hook you up. But they do a lot of really great work in just kind of like, I think breaking that first barrier for folks to realize that like, oh, I could just like have a grow bag in my backyard or in my balcony or whatever and grow some tomatoes this season, or grow some cucumbers or whatever. And I think when we talk about a healthy food ecosystem, it's about it's about breaking that barrier. It's about kind of like breaking the separation that's developed between people and where their food comes from, and having a greater understanding of how your neighbors or the communities around you are the ones growing your food. I think the more you do that, then people start asking themselves like, oh, there's an empty lot around my corner. Why can't we just like put a bunch of like raised beds and start growing food in our community? Like, why are we all just like struggling to buy these like super processed products from like I don't know, from like whatever store? But
Yeah, and that leads into like the next question that I kind of had of why, or from your point of view, why should communities consider the local food system? So what is, other than the general like, oh yeah, it's organic or whatever it may be, but like you mentioned, this is a bigger ecosystem. Locally in a community, why should someone try to be involved in something like this?
I think it's first, this is a personal one because for me, one, because the community of people who are doing this are all incredible. I'll tell you this: I was not deeply engaged with this work. Like I wasn't really like aware of this work. I understood urban agriculture. I happened to luckily know some people that were involved with this, but I wasn't really like aware. But honestly, the people that I've interacted with in this work are all amazing people. A lot of these people are folks who are not, they're not doing this for money. They're growing because they want to feed their communities, because they see the importance of this. So one is just honestly to meet some wonderful people. But beyond that, I think it's about resiliency. It's about sovereignty. It's about having a say on the food that you and your community have access to. I think, as I'm sure you know, like food is where health starts for a lot of us, for most of us, really, for all of us. And I think what you'll find in the community is not just, it's not just about like growing the most profitable things. It's also like about the understanding that gets shared. It's about the people. Like I've learned so many different remedies for like aches and pains and things, and right, like all this like ancestral wisdom that like folks carry on. You start to lose that thing when you start to separate yourself from where your food comes from. So it's like, I think it's just about having that direct access to both like indirect input on like what food is accessible to you. And I say this to make it sound like it's easy. It's not easy. It can be really hard for folks to even establish a community garden or get the things they need, or they might not have the space to grow. But I think that's again where the wonderful aspects of the solidarity in the community really shines through. If you start connecting with folks, then you'll find folks who are like, you know what, I'll come in and I'll fix your I'll fix whatever. I'll help you empty your backyard of whatever stuff you have there so that you can set up some beds or whatever. It's a very collaborative space, and you start to see a lot of folks who are just thinking about caring for each other outside of just monetary systems.
And you mentioned sovereignty a lot, and then there was sovereignty in your bio. So what does food sovereignty mean? And then like, how does it show up in your daily work?
Yeah. I think so. My understanding of the term is that food sovereignty means that the folks who are consuming food are able to have a say in the production, in the aggregation, just the system that provides the food to people, that people who eat it have a say over how that comes about. Right now, like I've kind of said, all of us, none of us have a choice about where our food comes from, right? Like none of us, very few of us, like we might have some choice about like whether you're going to a Whole Foods or an Aldi or whatever it is you go to do your grocery shopping, but those are still produce that like those put in front of you. Like there's also like the type of food that's offered to you. There's a lot of times talk when there's attempts to bring food to food insecure folks. There's a lot of talks about like what food is being offered to them, right? Like food, sometimes it's food that just is not culturally relevant to folks or that they're not familiar with. And there can be like, right, they can be work of like making people familiar to other food. Like there's nothing wrong with like learning to like new food. But it's about that having that agency over that, right? Like it's a lot more different to be told here's the food that you have, and either you eat that or you go hungry, or being able to go to a place and be like, hey, I like to eat this food, I can access it, but also here's some other things that you might not have heard about that you should try out. So just kind of having that agency of freedom, so that folks, so our communities really like understand and have control or influence at least over the food that is available to them.
Yeah, you mentioned agency of freedom and that we get to choose, what culturally also is like reminiscent or brings us back a memory or a connection we have. You also mentioned that people get to share those ancestral remedies, which I think is important, especially in the city that we are, that's such a melting pot. We not only get to learn about each other, but also still stay connected with some of our roots. So having this opportunity to grow some of these very specific vegetables or fruit that can help you share a story, share a connection, a remedy, is special to building a community.
And then I'm trying to obviously make it work in my mind. So like food sovereignty in a food pantry would be, let's say I frequent a food pantry, and instead of me just grabbing whatever has been prepared, would be, let's say the food pantry provides something that could be culturally relevant to me. So how does Community Food Navigator, do you guys work with pantries in those form, or do you work with organizations that may work with pantries to provide that sort of option?
So we kind of work with anyone who is kind of invested in this work. We don't work as much directly with pantries, but I mean, we work directly with like you said, with organizations. So like we've worked with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. We like supported them when they were doing kind of like a series of listening sessions with the pantries that they work with.
Okay.
So we kind of help facilitate those for them to kind of like be in, collect them, kind of like give them a report of like this, some of the feedback that your pantries, the folks running your pantries are kind of like needing from you. I think in that, but yeah, like in that regard, we interface a lot with folks who are kind of experimenting with different ways to make that accessibility option available. I think a lot of folks, like you'll see like Grow Greater Englewood, UGC, there's a lot, and they're just the ones that are on the top of my head right now, but there's a lot, and there's honestly a lot of smaller farms that we support that they're just growing food for their community. There's a lot of community gardens, farms that will allow members in the community to just come and pick whatever they want. And I would say like to me that's kind of like the more emergent form of what like some of the shape of this idea of like food sovereignty. And like folks having the ability, I think even beyond that, it's also for me, it would be like organizations like UGC that are training people to grow food. Also community gardens that make plots available, right? So it goes even beyond just being like, hey, here's some options for what you can pick from the pantry, but to actually go into, hey, here's a space where you can grow your own food, where you can grow food that is relevant to you, that you want to eat. And so, yeah, those are just kind of some of the folks that we work with. But like I said, they're doing a lot of the work on the ground, and what we try to do is support them, whether that be we do volunteer days at farms sometimes, or whether that be kind of like helping them connect with other resources and other organizations that can support them.
I want to tie it back to the technology aspect. So, how is it being used to build a stronger relationship or community with all these people? And then, as well as, what were some of the obstacles? Because growing farming is a very like traditional and a very um not I don't want to say old way, but a very traditional way of doing things, and then starting to tie in technology might, intersect differently.
No, that's a great question. So I'll answer the first half in like just kind of a couple of examples. Is the we've seen recently just like folks sharing sharing needs that they have, sharing resources that they're looking for. Not too long ago, I remember there was someone who posted it in the app who was like, hey, I have all these tomatoes, and like they were for an order, and now I don't have anywhere for them to go. And one of our team members was able to kind of like make some back channel calls and find a home for those tomatoes, right? And so in that back channeling aspect is kind of like the answer to the other question, which is that folks, first of all, so if you're growing anywhere where you're like trying to sell your produce, one of like the things is you're not supposed to touch your phone while you're handling food. You need to wash your hands if you touch your phone, and then you want to go back to handling food. So obviously a lot of the folks who are doing this work are not and should not be using our digital tool while they're working, and that's completely the expectation that we have. We don't think of the work that we do in the app in the similar way that I think like something like a social media app, even though like that's kind of how the way that it presents itself. Think about where it's like we're not really thinking of like retention or holding people. Like I think the goal when people interact with the app is that we want them to either find what they were looking for, share a resource, or help someone else who's asking for help. And so we don't expect folks to like really spend a ton of time with the app. So like for us, it's more about people checking in every once in a while, making sure that they're seeing events that people are sharing, opportunities for them to share, and things of that nature. And I think, but I think the biggest thing is like we as a Navigator team, the biggest way that we've seen people become more engaged in the app is in that back channeling and in-person engagement, and just like people seeing us be present for their spaces, for their things, and seeing us kind of like, be willing to do more than just kind of like offer a space. If you can offer, and that's kind of also goes back to that earlier question about like my role as an online community manager. It comes from an understanding that like if you just build like a digital space, that's not gonna make a community. You need to foster that. And for us in particular at the Navigator, we're lucky that our online community is also our physical community, and so we are able to go to places, interact with people, support, like I said, volunteer days. As the Navigator, we volunteer places. We also have team members who have gone above and beyond and done things to support growers that we know needed support in some way or another. We'll help connect folks. Recently, there was a couple of growers who were looking to like update their website, and they were like, and they need to come to us, and they were like, hey, do you know anyone who would be willing to donate their time to like update our website? And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll look around. And this is the relation aspect of things. Like I didn't have to look far because while I was at a conference, I was talking with someone from CIFPAC, the Chicago Food Policy Action Council, And they were like, oh, I know someone who's a developer who's looking to support. Like this just came out in conversation. I was like, oh, wait, can I get their contact? And so it's that kind of like back channeling that then like shows people that that there is a community here and a reason to be engaged in this space, because it's not just going to be, yelling and screaming into the void. It's actually going to be responses of people being like, hey, you should do this, or hey, like reach out to me. Someone recently posted, I forget what it was, but someone was like, I need something. And someone else from another organization was like shoot me a text. I got you.
I feel like we can relate. I know I've done this connection of other episodes, but you also put it very well that in examples of this podcast, our goal is not to have episodes or have a podcast. This is just a means to an end kind of thing. We're here for you at the end of the day to do some kind of action. So this is our call of action. Like, here are people that you can reach out to if you have the resources, if you have the time, you have the money, whatever it may be. Or if you need those resources, here's someone you can connect to. So at the end of the day, we're here to facilitate any kind of partnerships that we can. But the ultimate goal, like I said, the app is not because you want to make money off the app. This podcast is not because we want you to just watch us, talk for a little bit, even though, thank you for being here. But there's a bigger cost to this. This is only one step from all of this.
Yeah. How have you seen from the organization level and the community level people respond to Community Food Navigator and then the initiatives that you guys come up with?
Yeah. I think it's been a positive response. I think it's been interesting because I jumped on. So I've been around for 2 years, and I jumped on right when the app was like officially launched publicly. And it is interesting seeing kind of like from that first year how the work from that first year like flowed into the second year. That first year was a lot of us, a lot of kind of like the seeding those relationships, attending events, a lot of us posting stuff in the app, trying to encourage people to post things like that. And it was very interesting kind of like at the turn of this year, seeing the app's kind of just taken off on its own. It's still a very small app. It's invite only, right? Because we want to be protected of the resources and knowledge that is shared there. But it is, but even the small number of people that are in, it's like about 500 right now.
How many?
500.
500. Okay, I thought you said 4,500.
No. No, 500. So they're very active. They're sharing resources. They're kind of starting conversations that we wanted to start, and they already got them going, right? And that's wonderful. And so I think we've seen a lot of great response. I think the biggest thing that we've seen, though, for me personally, is just the trust that folks have shown to it. Says that we'll get people kind of like texting us. Like there's folks who will text me and just be like, hey, do you know what this is, or do you know about this? Like, do you know this event? Have you worked with these people? And just just having an opportunity to be a soundboard for people who have ideas or thoughts, or like, hey, do you know who could help me with this? And I think that's probably to me the biggest reflection of the fact that we've been doing, I think, our jobs well, is that people, at least the people that we've gotten an opportunity to work with, see that our intention is to support them and to the best of our ability. And I think sometimes for me personally, like sometimes I'm afraid when people reach out, because I'm like, what if I can't meet the need that you have? But I think what I've learned is that people are able to recognize that your intentions and your care. And so even just trying to support someone, trying to connect someone to someone that can help them, it makes a world of difference for folks to know that they're not alone and that they have support.
You mentioned that it's an invite only right now. What are the requirements, parameters? What if somebody wants to join?
Yeah.
How can they navigate that to get to you?
Yeah. So we have an interest form on our website. So anyone who's interested in joining, they can fill out that interest form. That interest form is reviewed by our team. It's not about like hard and fast requirements. We do try to be mindful just about the biggest thing is just protecting the folks that are in the space, knowing that that their knowledge is this is a tidbit. This is an example that was shared with me very early on that I didn't know about, but makes a lot of sense, and I think it's a good example. Is that so we within the app we have an updated, constantly updating, and not everything in it's accurate, but it's a directory of like farms, gardens, and things like that in the city. Whenever like a community garden gets started, the property value of the buildings around it goes up. And so if you're a huge conglomerate trying to buy a property in certain neighborhoods in Chicago that are, up and coming, if you then this becomes a map of property that you can pick up. And so that's obviously a very drastic example.
But an important one in a reality.
Yeah. And more than anything, so the second thing I'll say though is the app is invite only, but we're not the only ones that can invite. Any person that's in the app can invite someone else. So it is our interest form is really just for the people that we interact with directly. Anyone who's in the app is someone that was obviously trusted by someone else. And again, it's really just about kind of like knowing that you are interested in that space, because that's the other thing too, is that like I think most people just wouldn't want to be in that space in the first place. I think most people should want to be in that space, but I think for a lot of people, they're just not thinking about food this way. They're not thinking about this work. And that's the other things like that. The community in that space is very much focused on this like food sovereignty aspect. It's not just about where can I find food or like what are some good recipes or some hot tips. It's very much about building the network and the work that needs to be done so that we can all take care of each other better, really. And so it's really just about making sure that the folks who are coming in are either folks who are invested in that work or who understand kind of like what this space is for. That is not, they're not coming in here because they sell manure and they want to advertise. But I hope that kind of gives it.
No, it does. It makes it more clear in what niche group this is for. And it also holds people kind of accountable of who they're inviting, so they know what they're in for. So I think it's great for people to know what the actual resource is and who it's for.
Yeah, and to that I'll also just quickly add that one thing is that we always tell people, and I think this is the case of any online community, no matter how much an entity might try to control it, that online communities belong to the people in them. And so as much as we have some idea of and we try to be thoughtful stewards of this space, we are stewards of the space because it's only valuable because the people trust this space. Anyone who's in it, if they trust someone, they should definitely like invite them if they think it's a good space for them. And ultimately, whatever the folks in there make of that space, it's for them to kind of like I said, we kind of tried to support it, take care of it, but ultimately, especially at this point, it is a community that already existed outside of the Navigator, that had its goals and its ways of doing things, and now that it has a digital space to continue doing that, it is very much for the folks in this community to choose how to move forward in that regard. And then the second thing I just want to say is that like there is also more ways for folks to get engaged that are not just like, I think that's, again, I mentioned Elizabeth with Chicago Grows Food, but really there's a lot of ways that folks can get engaged. And we try to make sure, and we're working on more ways for like the Navigator to kind of offer folks inroads into this so that they're not feeling like, okay, well, if I don't meet these requirements or if I'm not this invested, then I don't have a place in this work, because that's not the case. Everyone has a place.
That leads to my next question, that, the Navigator is a new, or you would say young app. So what are the future goals, or what are some key functions you would, as an online community navigator, would want to evolve that app to? Or is this the final product, or how are you constantly evolving the app?
Yeah. So I'll bow out a little bit to that question only because we have a developer and he handles more of that regard, I think. And also like, so the Navigator is now under Urban Growers Collective, UGC. So our executive director, Erica Allen, who was one of the founders of the Navigator, I think that's kind of like there's a lot of strategic plans and ideas about where the navigator could go that are up in the air, and so I don't feel confident being like, oh, this is the. I do think there's still things that we want to tweak as far as like the functionality and making sure that it's working well, that it is meeting the needs that folks have. I can speak outside of like the app itself. We are looking for, I would say, the navigator as a team. We are looking to create more of those resources that folks outside of the app can utilize. We're looking ways. We think especially. I think right now there's a lot of people who want to feel like they have an impact in the world around them, and we want to we want to make it easy for folks to see how they can get involved in the work that's happening in this space, whether that be volunteering at farms, buying from local growers, or learning how to grow, or just growing at home, participating, working like volunteering at pantries, whatever that case may be. But just kind of like encouraging folks to really see themselves as part of this movement, and that it benefits all of us really to have this community grow.
Because I can think of like people who may be interested but may not be technology savvy, or may not have access to a smartphone, or it's just, may not be, the app store is not accessible to them. So you're planning on having ways to interact with those people as well.
I mean, I think so. So I think in that regard, like folks, I think that's where the folks we work with are doing a better job at it, honestly. Like I think so we have a stewardship ring, which are like a bunch of leaders in this space that lead the work, and they're all over the place, doing a lot of wonderful stuff. And a lot of them are really the ones that are like doing work in the community. They're working, Dr. Angela Taylor at the Garfield Park Community Council, Pastor Rashorna Fitzpatrick at Stone Temple Church. They have a garden, a wonderful garden space outside of their church. Those are folks that are really on the ground, interacting with people who well, all kinds of people, but they're the ones that would have the best chance to interact with someone who's like, hey, I don't have a phone, I don't have access, and they're already doing that work. They have love fridges, they have they have things, they have gardens, they have ways that they're supporting the community. And so our role in this regard is really in connecting the folks that don't see that they have something to offer to that work. And showing them kind of the through line of like, how can you get involved so that you can support love fridges, so you can support community gardens, so you can support all this type of work.
I think now to like kind of encompass this whole conversation and wrap things up, what is a call of action or a takeaway you want our listeners, viewers to take away from either the Community Food Navigator or from this conversation itself?
I thought about this question. I thought about this a lot because I'm like, I mean, to me, it just keeps coming back, and it is kind of a vague call to action. This is not like a donate here. I think I would just encourage folks to see how they can get involved in the food work in their community, to look around for community gardens, to look around for food pantries, to look around for mutual aid groups, to look for folks that are doing work around them to feed their community, and to see if there's a space for them to be a part of that. I think that's the best thing that folks can do. But also, like I said, I think growing your own food, even if it's in an apartment, if it's something small, grow some herbs, grow some tomatoes. I think that's a great starting point for folks to just like learn about that process. And then after that, I don't know, join a gardening group. From there, you get to join a pantry, and then from there, it's kind of a process now.
And I want to give you a moment right now so you can give us the organization's social media. If you have anything you want to share, events, anything coming up, please let them know, and then how to contact you.
Yeah, for sure. So our social media, I believe, is Community Food Navigator.
We will add it to this discussion.
It's cool. Our Instagram is probably the best place the place that we update more regularly. We are looking to make some updates to our website. If you are a grower, if you are someone who is interested in being part of this community and part of doing this work, definitely go on our website and check out our interest form and like send out your information. Yeah, I think actually I do have, sorry. I'll do like a quick break. One thing we will be doing, so we've done this for the last couple of years, and so this will be our third year. We do this farmers market forage campaign, which is just we just put out, it's nothing fancy. It's just we put out a map of farmers markets specifically on the south and west sides of the city, and we encourage folks to visit them and post on social media when you do with like a hashtag. We will be posting the map and the details on our Instagram in the coming month. But that's also, even if you don't want to participate in the thing, it's just a good way to like learn about some of the wonderful markets throughout the city. There's a lot of folks making sure that there's food available everywhere in the city, and we just want to bring attention to some of the markets that get a little bit less of the spotlight. And so that's probably something that I would encourage. I think anyone can participate in that.
I think that's what people should add to their summer plans. You know, we're talking about summer plans. There you go. Get your steps in. Go to a farmer's market. Find a new neighborhood you want to check out. So I think that's perfect. I will be using that. Israel, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you having this conversation with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Healthier Habits. We hope this conversation inspired you to make the healthy choice the easy choice.
If you enjoyed this episode, please support the podcast by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you never miss an episode.
Head over to healthierhabits.podbean.com to catch up on past episodes and find all the links and resources mentioned in today's show, or click around here on YouTube for more videos.
Thanks again for tuning in to Healthier Habits. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay healthy.